Want to break down on some of the latest topics from college to the pros? We interview many individuals to share their knowledge about the news stories surrounding the teams and its players. This is Nothing But That Sports Talk. Welcome to Nothing But That Sports Talk. I'm Rafique Louison alongside the beautiful Renee Washington. How you doing today?
I am great. How are you?
I'm doing great as well, and I see you've done a lot in the sports industry so far. You're working for Fox Sports. You covered the AFL. How does it feel to be doing all that? And what inspires you to be a journalist?
Yeah, it's really exciting. I love working in sports. I work in sports in many different capacities, as you mentioned, and have worked in basketball, football, college sports, professional sports. But for me, as a former athlete and someone that has always grown up around sports and a sports family, the excitement, the spontaneity, the way that everything is different day to day. I love that. You know, there are no 2 days that are the same. So I know that going in, I just really enjoy storytelling. I really enjoy, the opportunity to get, those interviews and get those behind the scenes stories and maybe some analysis. There's all different aspects that I work in. And I think the versatility of all that just kind of keeps me motivated and keeps me going because it's a lot of fun and it's something that I enjoy doing.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And I know you enjoy covering all those arena football games. Like, what's this you cover? How you like covering the arena football games?
Yeah, so the Arena Football League was very exciting. Unfortunately, the league did fold, and it's something that I could kind of get a sense of what was going to happen there. They had with some financial issues, but arena football, unlike the NFL or outdoor football, is much smaller. So for fans, their experience is a lot more personal. You have the opportunity to be up close with players, with coaches, with the action. So even things like interviews and pictures and autographs, all that stuff is so much more possible for everyone that's in attendance because you're in the basketball arena. They take, like, for this area in Philadelphia, the Philadelphia Soul play at the Wells Fargo Center where the Philadelphia 76ers play. So it's a lot smaller. They're not playing at the Lincoln Financial Field on a football field. It's a 50-yard field. It's not as wide, so it allows you to have that connection with players that you don't always get. The tackles and everything is happening right there in front of you. And so for me as a reporter covering the Atlantic City Blackjacks, I had the opportunity to really connect with the entire staff, coaches, players, everybody that's involved because they really do at that level and something that I really enjoy, whether it's college or whatever. You get the excitement on their end as well to be covered. So you don't always see that with some personalities. They tend to be act like reporters are here to here to kind of blow up stories in their faces, whereas in this instance, I felt like I was part of the family. I was a team reporter, and I was someone that I was involved in the jokes and the stories, and it was like Renee, the friend, and another family member and another teammate versus just Renee, the reporter. So it was nice, and it was very unique, and it's a shame that the league has folded, but, for the season that I was able to cover them, I wouldn't change it for anything.
Exactly. And I remember back in the day, I used to watch arena football. It was a pretty intense football compared, well,
Fair.
not as intense as the NFL. Well, it doesn't really get as many views as the NFL, but you know what? It is football. I remember back when they used to have the New York Dragon before that franchise got dismantled and they took like a whole year or several years off arena football, but now that it's back and is it still going on? That's all I gotta say. I mean, what happening? But you know what? At least we're getting the XFL coming back. Are you doing
Yes.
anything for the XFL?
I am not, no.
Well, you should really get on it because Fox is covering the XFL. But
I did do that.
but now since we're talking football for a bit, what is your predictions for the NFL divisional playoffs this weekend? Because you have the Seahawks versus the Packers, the
Right.
Vikings versus the 49ers, the Titans versus the Ravens. It just what take a pick. Titans versus Ravens, who you got? Because Lamar Jackson's no joke.
Yeah, I think for this round, I can't count the Ravens out at all. I don't think that the Titans did knock off Tom Brady and the Patriots, and the Ravens Patriots rematch for the Patriots would have been really exciting to watch. But to see the Titans get there, I'm happy for them because they got to dethrone the Patriots. But I don't think that this is a game that, for the Ravens, I think they win this one. I do think that for Baltimore coming into the playoffs with the tremendous regular season that they've had, there could be a question of, is there too much pressure on them to kind of continue that? Because they have been, incredible to watch throughout the regular season. And for Lamar Jackson and the players around him, it's a matter of now when it's one and done, can they maintain that same level of intensity on both ends of the ball like they've been doing? But I do think they still have that underdog mentality. And if you listen to their interviews and press conferences, they're not done. They're not content. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's not like, oh, we've had this great season, and if nothing else happens, we're good with this. No, it's like, we've had this great season, but if we don't win the Super Bowl, none of that matters. And they are much like, as we know with the Lamar Jackson, with his story, he's someone that has a lot to prove. And he's got a lot of haters out there, and he's looking at this opportunity as the next step to be able to solidify his role as a top quarterback in the league. So I think for this Saturday matchup, without a doubt, I've got Baltimore.
Yeah, that's what you got to think about. And another matchup that's literally in my mind, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Houston Texans. What's your pick for that one?
I'm excited for this. Mahomes versus Watson. This is a tough one. I honestly, this is a toss-up to me. I have no idea who's going to win this one. This one's not as obvious in my opinion in terms of who will win this. So I'm not positive. I don't even know which way to go. I think that for the Kansas City Chiefs with Big Red, Andy Reid as the head coach, and his previous experience in the playoffs, that's something to take into consideration because we have seen him struggle with getting over that playoff hurdle and being able to be, even though his teams have been strong, like the Chiefs have been the last couple of years, like he had with the Eagles when he was here in Philadelphia, you see that when he gets to the playoffs, he struggles with making that next step and winning a Super Bowl. So that in itself, to me, it could be a difference maker. But for the Houston Texans with J.J. Watt out there and Deshaun Watson, I'm just looking forward to this. This is going to be an incredible football game. I don't even care who wins it, to be honest, because I have no horse in this race, so to speak. But I think we're going to see this be like a 40-plus points on both sides type game because it's just going to be two incredible offenses and defenses. So I think it's going to be like a shootout.
Yeah, especially since the Texans derailed the Kansas City Chiefs at one point in the regular season. Mm-hmm. That was just nuts. Now, yeah. 49ers versus Vikings. Take your pick.
I'm going to go with the 49ers on this.
Exactly.
I think they, hats off to the Vikings because they always find a way to get, a run into the playoffs. But I think that for the 49ers, they've been just having, there's some teams right now that are just a little bit hotter to me. And I think for the 49ers, they're that team. Coming into this game, 13-3, you look at the performances we've seen from Jimmy Garoppolo and the different players around him, Richard Sherman. You can't count these guys out right now because they are playing so confident. Their defense is incredible, and I just think offensively we have seen them be tested at times, especially in their matchups versus the Seahawks. But I think this is the 49ers all the way.
Yeah, it has to be because the 49ers have had an outstanding season. They were undefeated up until that loss to the Seattle Seahawks. Mm-hmm. When speaking of Seahawks, we got to transition to their matchup against the Packers. Who you got winning that one? Are we going to be seeing a third matchup between the Seahawks and the 49ers? Or are we going to be seeing the Packers take on the 49ers?
I'd love to see the Seahawks 49ers again because every game that they've played and every time they step on the field against each other, it feels like a Super Bowl in itself.
Yes, it is. So. Yes, it is. But before you continue talking, when you thought about the matchup of Monday Night Football where the Seahawks became the first team this season to take out the 49ers?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What you thought about that matchup?
Exactly, and that's exactly it. I mean, you look at that game and you look at the two times they matched up this season, and honestly, these two teams with two great quarterbacks, Russell Wilson on one side and Jimmy G on the other side, well coached on both sides, strong on the offensive and defensive line. I would love to see that matchup again, and I think for the Packers with Aaron Rodgers, for me personally, I just don't know that they have enough to get past Russell Wilson. I think he's the better quarterback in this game, No knock on Aaron Rodgers. He's one of the best to ever do it. But I just think that the Seahawks, looking at Marshawn Lynch and DK Metcalf and what they've been doing consistently each game, it seems like, to me, they're the stronger team.
Exactly. Now,
Yeah.
I see there's just a lot of intensity going on in the NFL. Well, yeah, so basically the NFC, you're predicting to be the 49ers versus the Seahawks. And for the AFC, well, you said it's a toss up between the Texans and the Chiefs. And you got the Baltimore Ravens taking out the Tennessee Titans. But
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't mind seeing Kansas City take out Baltimore. Like, that's a matchup in itself. Because you're talking about Patrick Mahomes versus Lamar Jackson, two of the top quarterbacks right now, whose name isn't Tom Brady.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? We're seeing a change in the league with quarterbacks, and I think that's even the greater picture that we're seeing here. Because we're talking about these teams: Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson with the Seahawks, Deshaun Watson with the Texans, Pat Mahomes with the Chiefs. All black quarterbacks, and not even just that, but quarterbacks that are changing the game because they're not just a typical stay in the pocket and throw, but they can run and they can throw. And they're changing the stereotype of what a black quarterback is all about, and what we've heard of the stereotype of black quarterbacks in the past. They're not just runners. They can throw. They can handle. We've seen them get out of tackles and still be able to make a good throw. So I'm looking forward to whoever comes out of that Texans Chiefs game to face the Ravens. I still would love to see the Ravens get to the Super Bowl, but honestly, you look at all three of those teams, and any of them deserve to be there. It's not a situation, as you mentioned with Tom Brady, where it's kind of like, all right, we're sick of Brady. Enough of him. We've had enough of his
Yeah,
success. We want
and
someone else to win.
yeah, I
These
know
are
you were
three-quarters.
excited. I know you were excited
Yes.
when the Patriots got taken out by the Tennessee Titans. And
Oh,
you know
yeah.
what's funny? I'm surprised the Titans were able to hold that 1 point lead for like 2.5 quarters throughout that game
Yeah.
because Tom Brady surprisingly struggled. I'm thinking to myself, you know what? Tom Brady's gonna find a way to overcome the odds like he always does. He's never made it to the Super Bowl as a wild card team, but you know what? You're facing Tennessee, a redemption Tennessee Titans who got in. And you know what's funny? The Patriots would not have been in that wild card game if they wasn't for that late second loss to the Miami Dolphins.
Mm-hmm. They weren't supposed to be there. But I think it just shows the change of the league. I mean, the Patriots are no longer the top team. The dynasty's not there anymore. They're not. Nobody's scared of them anymore. Or not that I think they were scared of them before, but I think there was a little. When you step into a game versus the Patriots, you always had something to prove. Not anymore. The Patriots are in the pack with everybody else now, and you can name teams, 3, 4, 5 teams that are better than them, including the teams that are in the divisional round. So, yeah, I mean, I think the fact that they lost Miami in the last regular season game, and then to lose to Ryan Tannehill and the Titans in the wild card round, it just shows that we're having a shift in the league and that things are changing, and that there are some new teams on the block. But I think for the Ravens, Texans, or Chiefs, there are 3 teams that each have their own unique storylines and deserve to be in the Super Bowl. It's just a shame that we have to see someone lose. Now, on the other side, I do think I would love to see you guys mention that Seahawks 49ers matchup. And then from there, I would love to see 2 black quarterbacks in the Super Bowl. Done.
2 black quarterbacks. So basically,
Yeah.
what's your prediction for the Super Bowl? Which Super Bowl matchup do you want to see?
So that would have to be the Seahawks, and then whoever comes out of that matchup between, I honestly, it's a toss-up, and have no preference between the Ravens, Texans, and Chiefs. I'm all for it. Make it happen.
Yeah. But you want to know something else that happened? The Giants got a new coach. An inexperienced coach. Who was the special teams for the New York Patriots.
Yes.
What you think about that deal with the New York Giants pick up the new coach?
Yeah, so I mean, we've seen this before, and we continue to see this. It's just interesting to see how people have now been speaking out on it with only 3 black coaches in the NFL. That's been the biggest eye-opening part of all this is that you see Joe Judge step into this role with the Giants, and the big question is, how is he more deserving than some of the, and not even just the black coaches, but some of the other coaches that may have been up for this position. And so with the NFL, unfortunately, and we saw Stephen A. Smith point this out when he looked directly in the camera and said his thoughts on the fact that there are only 3 head coaches in the NFL that are black. But it's not even just a race thing. It is about that, but it's also bigger than that. These coaches that we're seeing step into these teams are underqualified, and all we're seeing is one bad coach to the next. Now, I haven't seen what Joe Judge is going to do with the Giants, but what I have seen in the past is we see just kind of like a shuffling of coaches. They get fired from one team, they get hired by another team. So it's not even a matter of in terms of Joe Judge. I think he just kind of polarizes what we've been seeing over and over again. We saw it with the Jets, with Adam Gase. We've been seeing it repeatedly. One coach gets fired, they move on to another team. If you couldn't coach one team in the NFL, to me, maybe you're not a head coach. Maybe you are an offensive coordinator or defense, whatever. Maybe you can't handle the role of being a head coach. But why is it that some of these coaches that have been failing in one side are just moved to another team and just kind of expect to step right in there? So, I don't know. We've been seeing a lot of changes in the coaching staff, and I'm not really sure how we can go about making change altogether to have more qualified coaches being put into these positions. What's it going to take for someone to step up and say, no, we can't just shuffle the bad coaches from one team to the next. We've got to actually make some moves that make sense. Maybe you have to bring in someone out of the college game. Maybe you have to bring in someone new. We just saw it with Ron Rivera with the Panthers after he was fired from there. So it's opened up a can of worms that I think it's good for any change to happen. There has to be a discussion around it. And with all these head coaches positions that we've been seeing, the Cowboys letting go of Jason Garrett, we see it with the Panthers, we've seen it with the Jets in the past, we see it with the Browns now and the Giants. All these teams that are struggling, and they just bring in another coach that has failed in the past. How obvious is that?
Yeah, it really. I really don't know because the Giants, the 2 games this season after Eli Manning could barely keep their teams in the game. They've had a tough time stopping the run. They could not stop the wide receivers from getting the ball. They just give up so much rushing and passing offense. Like, the Giants, they just had a whole lot of struggles this year. They couldn't even beat the New York Jets.
Yeah.
And speaking of the New York Jets, they just, oh, man. I mean, they finally decided to start winning games where the season was already over. They might be a playoff team if they had won that game in Cincinnati. Let's be honest. Because Cincinnati and Miami, they were winless going into their games against the Jets, and they took them out. It's just, they're going to need a lot of changes in the NFL. I mean, well, there's going to be a lot of changes in the NFL, should I say, because the Giants, they're just taking a gamble with their new coach. A big gamble. They took a gamble with Darnell Jones, and you saw what he did. I mean, he had 2 impressive wins, including the one where you barely got past the Tampa Bay Buccaneers earlier this year. Right now, it's just a lot the Giants need to think about. When I look at that move, I was like, let's see what happens. I'm not going to be too crazy about it because, the Giants are completely flat.
Yeah, and I think that more than just with all of these teams that you talk about, the Jets, the Giants, the Browns, put the Cowboys in that mix, the Dolphins for sure. We have to. I think what a lot of people don't always take into consideration is, yes, the head coach needs to be changed. It's time for a new voice, but there's more than just that's going on. The head coach is the leader, one of the the leaders of the team. But at the end of the day, if they're not getting it done on the field, there needs to be some different types of personalities brought in as well. The team cohesion and how they're looking on the field. How's the offense, running their plays? How's the defense? Are they getting exposed? Are there gaps? Things like that. So I think with football, especially with 11 guys on the field, with having so many different lines, special teams, offense, defense, as much as we can definitely point the finger at the head coaches that it starts there, even the front office. Maybe it's time for a new GM. I think we always focus so much on the head coaches, and there's so much more that goes into the failure of a team than just the head coach. So for these teams that are kind of that bottom of the league right now, that we're not even a playoff competitor, that we're not even in the playoff conversation, there's a lot more to be done when you look at the difference between the bottom teams and the top teams that we're talking about that are still playing in the playoffs right now.
All I gotta say is, if Joe Judge is gonna be a successful head coach for the New York Giants, the same way Tom Coughlin was when he coached the Giants to 2 Super Bowls, the players have to cooperate with the playbook that's right in front of them. And that's with every team in the NFL. How do you think that we see the playoff teams that are right in our grasp being successful and getting as far as they come?
Mm-hmm.
That's all I gotta say about the NFL. Now, why don't we just get into the NBA? Because recently, bless the dead for David Stern.
Yeah.
What do you think about how David Stern managed to contribute to the NBA and making all those changes between bringing the WNBA, the adjustment of what used to be the NBA Development League, now it's a G League? What do you think about David Stern's career?
Yeah, David Stern definitely left a legacy without a doubt, and I don't think anybody's perfect. And I think a lot of people are quick to criticize, but you look at what you have to do as a commissioner of any league. Look at all the teams you're managing, all the PR crises, and all the things that are going on to manage a league. And he definitely had his faults, but who doesn't? You know. And I think he's, to me, is one of the best commissioners that have ever come through any league because of the fact that he helped take the NBA and from having a lockout and all these other issues to turn a corner to now they're the most dominant league in the world in terms of fan engagement, the players, salaries. So to see what he did with the NBA and then also what he did with the WNBA to bring them along, I think the G League is in a better spot than it was before. You know, I think there have been so many big, long-lasting changes beyond his legacy that we still see now with Adam Silver that really started with him. He gave the league a voice. He gave players a voice. He connected with players and coaches. So I don't think he was by any means this perfect commissioner, but I don't think anybody can be because you're going to make mistakes and there's going to be ups and downs. That comes with any role, and that definitely comes with any role of leadership when you talk about being the commissioner of the NBA and all these teams. But I do think without a doubt the NBA does not get to where it is today without David Stern.
Exactly.
David Stern made
Stern made the NBA into one of the most popular sports in the four major sports right now.
Oh, yeah.
And it was during his time he brought in a lot of interesting NBA players, and LeBron James, the Dirk Nowitzkis, the Michael Jordans. Like, there was so much comparisons that goes on because David Stern dropped them into the league. And, well, without him, the NBA might have not been this big during his 30-year tenure. And he passed the torch to Adam Silver. Adam Silver is planning to shorten in the NBA and put in like a mid-season and tournaments for like to get into the bottom two in the NBA playoffs. What do you think about that possibility?
Yeah. I mean, I like the changes, to be honest. Some of them. I don't like all of them. I think shortening the season would actually be beneficial for the players in the long run. When you talk about 86 regular season games and then you talk about a postseason run as well as all the players do nowadays in the off-season, quote-unquote, I think it makes sense. And in terms of the fact that these players will now be able to be on the court more, healthier, perform at a better level because they do have, and the discussion is from like 86 to 73 or 74. It's not cutting the league in half or anything. It's not a huge difference when you really look in terms of the longevity of a season. But to see the fact that these players are flying from city to city, from one day to the next, they're playing back-to-back games in the course of 7 days. They might play 4 or 5 games. It's ridiculous. And we're talking about the top athletes in the world. So their bodies need to rest just like anybody else. And now there is no off-season. The summer league is bigger. You know, there's, of course, international tournaments. There's always, we see these players all year round. The NBA has become a year-round league. You know, once the playoffs end, we don't stop talking and seeing the players and working out and things like that. So I'm all for shortening the league. Now, the mid-season tournaments and things, I think they're trying to get a little creative, trying to get more fan engagement, trying to get the fans an opportunity to see players in a unique way. I'm not sure about that. I don't know if those plans really make sense because it's not like soccer, which they compared it to the Champions League with soccer. It's a lot different because all the best players are already in the NBA. So who are you going to bring in to play against them? So I don't really know if it makes sense to have teams play against each other in a small tournament because they're already playing each other in the regular season and they're going to play each other again in the playoffs. So what I know something that I've been going back and forth in different conversations is how does it benefit to have a small tournament where now teams are playing for another trophy on top of the other awards they can win? I think it just almost may water down things. But I do like the idea of reseeding, of the play-in for the playoffs, where the bottom seeds have to play in like their own first round, where they have to get in to get those final 2 seeds in the playoffs. I think that would be great, especially with the fact that on the East and the West, it's not as easy as saying here's the top 8 teams anymore. It's a top 10, 11 teams for each conference. And so to give those teams an extra opportunity to play into the playoffs would definitely bring more hype around the league in the postseason, and would definitely now incorporate more teams into the postseason. So I am definitely for some of the changes, but we'll see what happens. Not sure
Yeah,
how.
I mean, it's probably going to come out like the WNBA, because when the WNBA went from being just an East versus West in the NBA Finals to what it is right now, you had so many great matchups. You had the Lynx versus the Sparks in the NBA Finals, the WNBA Finals, excuse me. That was so epic, especially that finish where the Sparks took out the Lynx in 2016. That was just so epic. And then most recently, you had Connecticut versus Washington. We could be seeing matches like that when we get to the reseeding of the NBA playoffs, where the Lakers could take on the Clippers in the NBA Finals instead of the Western Conference Finals, or the Raptors could take on the Brooklyn Nets. And the NBA has evolved so much between the Nets coming to Brooklyn to, I don't know, I'm just speechless right now. It's just so much changes going on. But as the NBA stands right now, which NBA Finals matchup you think is going to happen? Because obviously, it's looking like Bucks versus Lakers.
It's tough to say in January because we just don't know. I mean, as we just saw Anthony Davis go down with a back injury that could have been way worse than how it looked. You don't know what's going to happen, but if everyone stays healthy and if all the teams continue, also, we're not really sure what's going to happen with any trades and everything. Of course, we have all these deadlines coming up for moves. So my guess right now is definitely the Lakers. I'm a LeBron fan, so I'm Team Lakers.
Who is a LeBron fan? I mean, you have to be, because
people, actually.
It's LeBron James.
Yeah, there's a lot of people. I got a lot of people that are always bad talking LeBron. A lot of LeBron haters out there. But I think out of the East, it's a toss up between Boston and I'm not really sure. Boston and Milwaukee, because I think Toronto will definitely see themselves make a good postseason run. I'm not sure if they come out of the East, but I think that right now, I don't know. I'm gonna say Milwaukee. I can't overestimate or overlook the way that Giannis can change a game. And Boston, although they are, in my opinion, much stronger this year with Kemba Walker leading things and with the youth that they have behind players like Jason Tatum, I still think that they don't have enough to beat Milwaukee. That's my January estimate. Now I don't know.
Yeah, and that has been proven before, because the Bucks beat the Lakers in the regular season a few weeks back.
Yeah,
Now,
but
you mentioned earlier about staying healthy. Even though you had all these major moves in the offseason between KD and Kyrie in Brooklyn, to Kawhi and PG coming to the Clippers, the injuries is one of the reasons why teams are not playing up to expectations, especially the Brooklyn Nets. Okay, with Kyrie Irving injured for 2 months, you had Kevin Durant missing the entire season because of those injuries he suffered during the run to the NBA Finals last year. Like, the Brooklyn Nets have held their own, at least until they start hit with this losing streak that they're in. They obviously should have won the game against the Oklahoma City Thunder, who, in my opinion, are like underrated. Nobody expected the Thunder to still be this relevant. Chris Paul's proven like he can still be a relevant point guard.
oh yeah. I mean, he's one of the best guards in the league. He's an all-star for a reason. So, his move to OKC doesn't make, of course they lose something without Russell Westbrook, but they still brought in another strong player with him. And you look at the players that they have around him. I mean, you still have players like Steven Adams and Andre Roberson and Dennis Schroeder. They still have a solid team. They're just in the West. So they're not going to be able to be a top, I don't think they're going to be in the semifinals of the Western Conference or anything like that, or finalists by any means, but they're still at least right there competing for at least a potential playoff spot. But that's the thing. There are some teams that are the superstar teams, the Rockets, the Lakers, the Clippers. I'll put the Bucks in that category. And then we kind of have that next tier of teams with teams like the Thunder, the Trailblazers, the the Celtics that have some things to figure out and to see if they can turn that corner. I'll put the Raptors in that same category as well as the Sixers. So I'm not really sure who is going to be in the finals, but I'm definitely excited that we even can have this conversation and be unsure, because there was a time where it was very obvious from day one who we thought was going to be in the finals at the end of the
You
season.
can take the Golden State Warriors and the Miami Heat for that.
Yeah.
Like, that was back in the 2010s. In the 2010s,
Exactly.
you knew who was going to get to the NBA Finals.
Mm-hmm.
You
Exactly.
like literally almost knew. I mean, well, to be blunt, back in 2010, we thought that the Cavaliers were going to make it to the finals. But with all the issues with LeBron James, his mother, and Delonte West, that was not going to happen. And they could not hold their own against what was a much better Boston Celtics team back then. It's good that LeBron James left to go to Miami, because he's on a team with two other superstars, Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, and the result speaks for himself.
Mm-hmm.
LeBron had basically the best decade in his NBA career, even though he does have a losing record. But two of those three titles had a lot of miracle moments. And it would not have happened in 2013 without Ray Allen. It would not have happened in 2016 without Kyrie Irving. Right now, he has Anthony Davis teaming up with him and a bunch of other young players, with Rajon Rondo looking to win his second championship. Dwight Howard, who still proves he could be a dominant person in the paint. Oh, man. It's just a lot to take in. Now, I know in a month later we have the NBA All-Star Game. Now, which player do you want to see in the NBA All-Star Game that has not been there yet? Because obviously Spencer Dinwiddie deserves that knob.
That's a tough question. I'm looking forward to the next generation and how they step into the All-Star game. Players like Luka Doncic and Trae Young. I'd love to see Ja Morant get a nod as a rookie, but I think right now the All-Star game is just one of the things that makes it so appealing is the fact that, well, it's a double-edged sword, because you have players like Kevin Durant that's injured, Kyrie Irving that's injured, Steph Curry has been injured throughout this, for the majority of the season. So we don't have the usual big-name players that are right now when you look at the voting for the fan voting and the rosters, but we do have a lot of other players like Pascal Siakam and even Taco Fall, and those guys that are looking like they're going to get an opportunity to be a part of All-Star Weekend. So much like you talked about with the NFL, with the change of the generations from Tom Brady to the next generation, we're kind of seeing that in the NBA as well in terms of the All-Star Weekend and who's going to be the big frontliners for it. Giannis and Luka were the fan voting, in terms of fan voting, had the highest number of votes. So that's not the usual names that we've seen in the past. So I'm always looking forward to it, because All-Star Weekend is, again, Adam Silver does a great job, the league does a great job of just making sure to incorporate the community and get great music and great performances. They really do a thorough job of making it, something that you are looking forward to tuning into every year.
Yeah, and it's funny. I want to think about Bronny James, because if LeBron James can keep up this pace as a young player at age 35, Bronny James could end up challenging him or teaming up with him when he comes to the league. Like, what do you think about Bronny James versus LeBron James if that matchup were to happen in the NBA?
Yeah, that's exciting. A father-son, if they're on the same team or they're playing against each other, anytime you can have, in my opinion, anytime you have family in the league together playing at the highest level, it's special. Whether it's brothers, cousins, we haven't seen many father-son matchups in professional sports. We saw it in baseball, but we haven't seen it in the NBA. So that in itself is something that you can never take away from your family and your legacy. Regardless, I know a lot of people are already like talking junk because of the, is Bronny James going to be like his dad and have the career he had? If he has half the career that LeBron has, he's going to be a tremendous player. I know people are quick to get on LeBron about, the finals that he lost, but look at how many players never even reached the finals, or how many players didn't win a single NBA ring. And because everyone wants to be so quick to jump on the LeBron James hate bandwagon, they're quick to point out all that he lost, but look at all that he's done. MVPs, All-Star, championships, in the international tournament. So if Bronny James can get to the NBA and play with LeBron James, regardless if LeBron beats him by 50 Doesn't matter. It's a father and a son playing in the NBA together. That in itself is special, regardless what happens from there.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, it's funny. Well, even though Bronny James has to play at least 1 year in college to see how good he is before he can come into the league, once he comes
Mm-hmm.
to the league, you can tell you're like father, like son. That's all I got to say. And out of all the crazy moments you see in the NBA in the 2010, what was your two favorite moments in the NBA?
So I definitely have to go with the Cavs coming back from the 3-1 deficit to beat the Warriors. Self-explanatory. The other big moment that I would go with, I don't want to pick two LeBron moments because that's very biased of me. But a lot of his championship moments are my favorite moments. But I would also even say the Golden State Warriors 73-0 season. You know, I think that was to see that dynasty rise and how Steph and Klay Thompson came about with the Splash Brothers and Draymond, and then adding KD the next year, which, I mean, I still don't love that move, but it still is something that's like a pinnacle part of the NBA and the history of the league that you can't overlook what it brought and how it changed the NBA. You know, because it put this Curry family as a whole in the spotlight even more. Of course, Del Curry has done that enough with his success, but now they're like one of the top sports families that people talk about and follow. So I think for what they did to change the league as a whole with that Warriors couple years stretch, I think that's something that we cannot overlook moving forward for the future of the league.
Exactly. And, well, obviously one of my favorite moments in the NBA in the 2010s would have to be the Nets coming to Brooklyn because with the Nets coming to Brooklyn, you added a sports franchise. I mean, I don't mean to be biased and everything, but with the Nets coming to Brooklyn, Brooklyn get to witness NBA basketball. I got to witness NBA basketball when they had the first regular season home opener in that arena at the Barclays Center, and it was just so exciting to go to. And well, they've had their down seasons, but they unexpectedly made back into the playoffs in 2019 to finish the decade and added two mega all stars who are injury prone. But once they finally playing together, you can tell they're gonna be like the new Jason Kidd and Richard Jefferson and Kmart with in the early 2000s when they were in the finals in back-to-back years. Only this time they might end up winning it. As long as they don't run into Los Angeles Lakers, then if LeBron James shows a shell of what he was in the 2010s, it's gonna be a problem for whoever he faces because you know you're playing on the West Coast now. You're not playing the East Coast. Well, LeBron owns the Eastern Conference. He has not lost to an Eastern Conference team in nearly a decade. So it's going to be a lot to observe in the 2020s. Because, but which NBA player out of Luka Doncic or Trae Young or out of those two are going to rise and have the better careers in the 2020s? Well, that's basically one-sided because Luka Doncic is Luka Magic.
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest, moving forward. I mean, of course, Luka's in a much better situation being with Dallas and having players like Kristaps Porzingis around him. The Hawks are not nearly as talented as the Mavs. So for that reason alone, it'll help boost his career because he does have the opportunity to play with better guys around him. But again, I don't know that long down the line because they are still so young, you know, and for both of them, we haven't seen their best yet. They're still figuring things out. They're still in their early years in the league. So I'm not really sure. But if I had to put a guess as of today, I would say Luka, just because of the way he stepped up to be one of the best players in the league. His size, his ability to attack the basket, his game in the perimeter to be able to knock down shots. His presence on defense. So I think he does have the total package to be someone that's going to, moving forward, be one of the best players in the league for many years to come.
The future of the NBA is looking bright. Now, I'm going to have to conclude this episode of Nothing But That Sports Talk. Thanks again, Renee Washington, for jumping in and being my special guest. And I love the work you do on Beyond the Headlines because not you're a special guest of mine. This is literally maybe not Beyond the Headlines, but it's getting there. But you know what? Thank you for being a special guest. I hope we get to do it again. And thank you guys for tuning in to Nothing But That Sports Talk. For those all the players out there, get your head in the game.